My name is Misty Rico, and I'm 41 years old. I ended my 6-year relationship last night. I'm still trying to process how something that looked so perfect from the outside could collapse in a single moment, but at the same time, it didn't feel sudden at all. It felt like something that had been quietly breaking for years finally gave way. Last night was supposed to be perfect. We had dinner at the same restaurant where we celebrated our first anniversary. Same corner table. Same soft lighting. Even the same bottle of wine we used to order when everything between us felt effortless. Adrian was different that night. Warmer. Lighter. He reached across the table at one point, brushed his thumb over my wrist and said, "I love this life we've built." That sentence stayed with me, because for the first time in a long time, I believed him. We walked through Pike Place Market afterward, laughing about nothing, everything. He mentioned a coworker who had just gotten engaged, joked about how everyone's catching up to us, and this time, he didn't tense up when he said it. That was new. That was dangerous, because hope doesn't come crashing in. It slips in quietly, convincing you things are finally changing. By the time we got home around 9:30, I had already made my decision. The ring had been sitting in my bag for months, waiting, like me. He curled up on the couch, legs tucked under him, scrolling through photos from our night. The living room glowed softly from that IKEA lamp we bought 3 years ago when we first moved in together. Everything felt familiar, comfortable, like home. I stood in the doorway for a moment, just watching him. This man I had loved for 6 years. This man I had built routines around, holidays around, futures around. My heart was racing, and I told myself it was excitement. I walked over slowly, dropped to one knee, opened the ring box, and the moment shattered before it even began. The diamond caught the light perfectly, but his face, it drained. All color, all warmth, gone. What replaced it was something I had seen once before. Panic. Raw. Immediate. Unmistakable. Not yet, Misty. Maybe a little more down the line. The same words. The same exact tone. Like he had practiced them. And something inside me didn't break this time. It aligned. Like a puzzle piece finally snapping into place after years of forcing the wrong picture. I stood up slowly, closed the ring box. My hands were steady. "Then we're done," I said. He blinked at me, confused, like I had just said something completely unreasonable. "What? Misty, what are you talking about?" And then the tears came. Fast, uncontrolled. "You're overreacting," he said, voice cracking. "We're good together. Why are you doing this?" But I wasn't angry. That's what scared him. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. I wasn't begging. I was calm, clear in a way I hadn't been in years. "I don't want a someday anymore," I told him. "I don't want a maybe. I don't want to spend another year hoping you'll wake up and choose me." "I am choosing you," he insisted. "I just need time." And that's when the truth hit me. Not softly, not gradually, all at once. He didn't need time. He needed me to stop asking. That realization settled into my chest like something cold and permanent. The conversation that followed felt like watching something collapse in slow motion. He kept repeating himself, "But we're so good together. Why does marriage matter so much? I thought you understood me." And I did. That was the problem. For 6 years, I had understood him, interpreted him, translated his hesitation into patience, his silence into reassurance, his distance into something temporary. But standing there, looking at him fall apart on our couch, I finally saw it. Nothing was changing. Nothing had ever been changing. I slept in the guest room that night. This morning, he acted like nothing had happened, made coffee, used my favorite mug, asked if I wanted to go to the farmer's market like we always do on Saturdays. Like I hadn't just ended us. Like I hadn't just realized that 6 years of my life had been spent waiting for someone who would never choose me the way I chose him. I gave him a month to move out. He stared at me like I was someone he didn't recognize. And maybe I was, because the woman who would have accepted not yet a second time, she doesn't exist anymore. Now his older sister Lena has been blowing up my phone, calling me heartless, saying I'm throwing away something beautiful over a piece of paper. His mom left me a voicemail crying. Our friends are split, some saying I'm too harsh, others saying finally. But here's what I keep coming back to. If you love someone enough to build a life with them, wouldn't you say yes? Wouldn't your heart move toward that future instead of away from it? My friend Marcus came over this morning with breakfast sandwiches. He didn't say much, just sat with me while I tried to breathe through everything. But at one point he looked at me and said quietly, "You know the difference between someone who wants to marry you and someone who doesn't?" I didn't answer, because deep down, I already knew. "The one who wants to marry you," he said, "doesn't say not yet. They say yes." And I think the hardest part isn't hearing that. It's admitting, "I've always known it. I keep replaying the first time he said it. Not yet, maybe down the line." Back then, I didn't hear rejection. I heard delay. That was my first mistake. It happened 18 months ago, during a family trip in Colorado. Adrian's family does these big summer reunions. Parents, cousins, nieces, everyone packed into this beautiful mountain resort like something out of a postcard. By that point, I'd already been with him for 4.5 years. I thought I belonged there. They treated me like I did. His mom would ask me to help plan dinners. His dad would pull me into conversations about family decisions. His nieces called me Aunt Misty, without hesitation. So I planned the proposal carefully. I even asked his father for permission months earlier during a hike. He got emotional, actually teared up, and told me he had been hoping I would ask soon. That should have meant something. It did, just not in the way I thought. The night of the proposal, everything was set up perfectly. Mountain sunset, soft, golden light spilling across the valley. The restaurant staff had strung fairy lights around our table. His entire family was there, at least 20 people, smiling, watching, waiting, expecting a yes. I remember my hand shaking as I stood up. I remember how loud my heartbeat felt. I remember thinking, "This is it, this is the beginning of forever." I dropped to one knee, opened the ring box, and Adrian froze. Not hesitation, not nerves. He completely shut down. His face went pale. The smile disappeared, like someone had erased it. For a moment, no one spoke. It felt like the world had paused just to watch him not choose me. Then, barely above a whisper, "Not yet. Maybe down the line." The silence after that was unbearable. His mom started crying, but not happy tears. His dad looked broken, like something inside him had just collapsed. One of his younger cousins actually said, "What?" out loud, before being shushed. And I stood there, on one knee, holding a ring he didn't want. I somehow managed to stand up, close the box, and hug him like everything was fine. Like I wasn't dying inside in front of an audience. "Let's talk later," I said. I don't even remember how I got through the rest of that night. I just remember the looks. Pity, confusion, awkward sympathy. The vacation turned into something I had to survive instead of enjoy. Family members kept pulling me aside. "Maybe he's overwhelmed. Give him time. He loves you, dear." And I wanted to believe that so badly. That night, he found me walking alone near the resort. He was crying, apologizing, saying all the right things. "I want to marry you, Misty. I do. I'm not ready yet." He told me his career felt unstable, that he needed to feel more financially secure, that timing mattered, that he didn't want to rush something so important. "I love you more than anything," he said, holding my hands, looking straight into my eyes. "I just need a little more time. Can you give me that?" And like an idiot, I said yes. not to a proposal, but to waiting. Looking back now, that moment feels like a turning point I completely misunderstood, because I thought I was investing in our future, but I was actually agreeing to stay in limbo. The months that followed were confusing, because he changed just enough to keep me hopeful. He started making comments about weddings, pointing out venues when we traveled, talking about how his dad would walk him down the aisle someday, joking about our future kids inheriting my stubbornness and his patience. It felt like progress, like he was warming up to the idea, like I just needed to be patient a little longer. But there were cracks, small ones, easy to ignore. My friend Marcus didn't ignore them. We were out for drinks one night, and he looked at me and said, "Misty, if he wanted to marry you, he would have said yes the first time." I brushed it off, defended Adrian, made excuses, because I didn't want to see what was right in front of me. Even my mom noticed. About 6 months after the Colorado trip, she asked me if Adrian seemed more serious about marriage. I told her about the hints, the conversations, the way he talked about the future now. She just looked at me for a long moment, then said quietly, "Talking about something and wanting something are two very different things." I didn't listen. I chose hope, and hope kept me there for another 18 months, until last week. The second proposal. No audience this time. No pressure, just us. We had the kind of day that makes you believe everything is finally falling into place. Slept in, made breakfast together, spent the afternoon wandering through Pike Place Market. Came home, cooked dinner, danced in the kitchen to old songs we used to love. He was relaxed, happy, present. He even talked about taking a trip to Europe next year, said, "When we go, not if we go." And that word "when" felt like a promise. After dinner, we were sitting on the couch, his feet in my lap, talking about a mutual friend who had just gotten engaged. "I'm so happy for them," he said. "They're going to have a beautiful wedding." That was it. That was the moment I told myself I had been waiting for. I went to the bedroom, got the ring from the back of my drawer, walked back into the living room. He was smiling at his phone when I dropped to one knee, and the second he saw the ring, his smile disappeared, like it had the first time. "Not yet. Maybe a little more down the line." The same words. Again. That's when everything became clear. Maybe later wasn't a delay. It was a decision. A polite way of saying no, without ever having to take responsibility for it. And in that moment, I realized something I wasn't expecting. I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt distance, like something inside me had already let go without telling me. I stood up, closed the ring box, and for the first time in 18 months, I stopped hoping. "I think I've fallen out of love with you," I said quietly. He stared at me like I had just rewritten reality. "That's not true," he said immediately. "You don't mean that." But I did. Not because I stopped caring about him, but because I finally started caring about myself. The aftermath was messy. He cried, begged, tried to reframe everything. Why does marriage matter so much? Why isn't what we have enough? I thought you loved me enough to wait, and maybe I did once, but love shouldn't require you to shrink your future just to keep someone in it. His family turned on me fast. His sister Lena called me selfish, asked me how long I expected him to wait for me to be ready, completely missing the point. I had been ready for 2 years. His mom called me, voice shaking, saying, "He loves you so much, he's just scared. Can't you see that?" And I could. That was the problem. I had always seen it, excused it, protected it. But fear after 6 years isn't hesitation. It's incompatibility. My parents reacted differently. My mom just said, "Thank God," like she had been holding her breath for me. My dad, who rarely says much about relationships, looked at me and said, "The right man won't need to be convinced. Even my younger sister, who loved Adrian, hugged me and said, "I'm proud of you." Adrian moves out this weekend. Yesterday, he asked me if this was really it, if I was really throwing away 6 years. I told him the truth. "I'm not throwing anything away," I said. "I'm just finally accepting what you've been telling me all along." He started crying again, softer this time. "But I might have been ready next year," he said, "or the year after." And that's when I knew. Without a doubt, I had made the right decision. "Might have been ready," I repeated. "After 6 years, that's not a future. That's a gamble. And I'm done betting my life on maybes." Adrian moved out that weekend. I thought the hardest part would be the silence afterward. I was wrong. The hardest part was the process of undoing a life. 6 years doesn't disappear quietly. It lingers in objects, in habits, in the way your body still expects someone to be there. We stood in the living room, surrounded by boxes, trying to divide things that no longer felt like just things. The bookshelf we built together on a random Sunday. The dishes we collected from different trips. The framed photos neither of us could look at too long. He kept crying, kept asking if we could try therapy now. After I had suggested it twice over the past year, and he had brushed it off like it wasn't necessary. "I'll go to individual therapy too," he said, voice breaking. "I'll figure this out. I don't want to lose you." That word lose hit differently now. Because you don't lose someone you were actively holding on to. You lose someone you assumed would never leave. By the time we got to the bedroom, things got quieter, more real. His side of the closet was already half empty. Drawers open, clothes folded into boxes, like pieces of a life being packed away. He picked up a photo of us from 3 years ago, smiling, sunburned, somewhere along the coast, and just stared at it. "I thought we had forever," he said softly. I didn't answer, because I used to think that too. We finished loading the last box into his car just as the rain started. Of course it did. Seattle never misses a moment like that. He stood in the driveway, looking smaller somehow. Not physically, but like something inside him had finally collapsed. "I thought we had forever," he repeated, rain mixing with tears. That's when I said it. The sentence that had been sitting in my chest for days. Forever starts with yes, not maybe. He didn't argue this time. He just nodded, got in his car, and drove away. I watched his taillights disappear around the corner. And then I went back inside a house that suddenly felt too big, too quiet. I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on the floor instead of the couch, and just breathed. I expected to feel shattered. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Stillness. Like I had finally stopped waiting. But 3 days later, everything changed. His older sister, Lena, called me. At first, I almost didn't answer. The last time we spoke, she had called me heartless, accused me of throwing away something beautiful. But something in me said, "Pick up." So I did. Her voice was different this time, quieter, heavier. "I owe you an apology," she said. That alone made me sit up straighter. I reacted, like a protective sister. She continued, "But I wasn't being fair to you. I didn't say anything. I just waited." Because something in her tone told me this wasn't just about an apology. "You deserve to know the truth, Misty," she said finally. And the way she said truth made my stomach drop. "Adrian never wanted to get married." I felt like the air left the room. "Not to you," she added quickly. "Not to anyone." I sat down slowly. "What do you mean?" I asked, even though part of me already understood. "He's always been like this," Lena said. "Marriage terrifies him. He sees it as a trap, losing independence, losing control. And suddenly, everything started rearranging itself in my head. Every hesitation, every deflection, every not yet." But Lena wasn't done. "It gets worse," she said quietly. My chest tightened. "After your first proposal in Colorado?" He didn't just feel overwhelmed. I didn't speak. I couldn't. He panicked that you proposed at all. That sentence landed like a punch. What? I whispered. He called me that night, Lena continued, crying. Not because he needed time, but because he didn't want marriage. Period. 6 years. 6 years with someone who knew exactly what I wanted and chose not to tell me the truth. My hands started shaking. And the wedding hints? I asked, my voice barely steady. Lena exhaled slowly. He started doing that on purpose, she said. He thought if he talked about marriage enough, you'd feel reassured. You'd stop pushing. You'd stay. I closed my eyes because I remembered every single one of those moments. The dresses, the jokes about kids, the future he described like it was real. None of it was real. It was strategy. He never planned to marry you, Lena said softly. He just didn't want to lose you. That was the moment something inside me didn't just break, it hardened. But why didn't you tell me? I asked. You knew all this, and you said nothing. There was a pause. I kept hoping he'd change, she admitted, or that he'd be honest with you eventually. And when you broke up with him, I reacted without thinking. I didn't want to admit how unfair this had been to you. Unfair didn't even begin to cover it. But then she said one more thing. Something that made my stomach turn. After your second proposal, he told me something. I gripped the edge of the counter. What? He said he kept saying not yet, because he thought eventually you'd stop asking. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating silence. He thought you'd just think and started feeling angry. Because this wasn't confusion. It wasn't fear. It was calculation. He knew. The entire time he knew. I'm sorry, Lena said quietly. You didn't deserve any of this. No, I didn't. We ended the call shortly after that, and I just stood there in my kitchen, staring at nothing. 6 years, reduced to a waiting room he never intended to let me leave, unless I stopped wanting more. That night, he texted me. Of course he did. I've been thinking, maybe we can compromise. Long engagement? We don't have to rush anything, I just miss you. I stared at that message for a long time, even now. Even after everything, he was still trying to find a version of the future that didn't actually give me what I wanted. That's when it finally clicked. This was never about timing. It was about honesty. Or the lack of it. So I replied. One message. My first and my last. Adrian, I hope you find someone who wants exactly what you want. Someone who doesn't need marriage to feel secure or fulfilled. You deserve that. And so do I. I'm blocking your number now. Take care. And I meant it. I blocked him. I told our mutual friends I didn't want updates. I chose silence. And the relief was immediate. Not because I stopped loving him overnight, but because I stopped negotiating with a future that was never real. 3 months later, my life looks different. Quieter. Healthier. I've gone back to things I abandoned. Photography, hiking, friends I hadn't seen in years. I started therapy. Not to fix what happened, but to understand why I stayed as long as I did. Why I accepted maybe for 6 years. My therapist said something that stuck with me. People who value loyalty often assume others value it the same way, even when their actions prove otherwise. That was me. I believed in commitment so deeply. I ignored the absence of it in him. Last weekend, I ran into Lena at the grocery store. She looked relieved to see me okay. We talked for a bit. She told me Adrian is dating someone new. A woman from work. Someone who doesn't believe in marriage. They seem happy, she said. And you know what? I believe her. Because now, they're aligned. She also told me something else. Something Adrian had said recently. It's such a relief to be with someone who doesn't want to turn this into something more serious. I smiled when she told me that. Not because it didn't hurt, but because it finally made everything make sense. He wasn't afraid of marriage. He was afraid of marriage with me. Not because I wasn't enough, but because I wanted something he never did. And that's okay. It hurts, but it's honest. And I'll take honesty over false hope every single time. 3 months ago, I thought my life was ending when he said, "Not yet," for the second time. Now I know it was finally beginning. I'm done waiting for maybes. The right man won't hesitate. He won't stall. He won't need to be convinced. He'll say yes, because he can't imagine saying anything else.